G'day there guys, in your opinion, how much beard is too much beard? It's getting a bit long here. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA. Now I want you to leave all your comments, insightful opinions, you're down in the chat below, smack that like button, sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the Barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user Universal Showdown, titled, Am I the a-hole for waking my girlfriend up with my morning routine? I'm 21 male, and my girlfriend is 20 female. We've dated over 2 years and lived together over 1. My girlfriend and I both work full-time. She's work from home right now, and I work outside the home. She works 8 to 5, and I work 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The past few months, we've had morning arguments because she says my routine wakes her up. I get up significantly earlier than her, about 3 hours before she wakes up, and she's not a morning person. Here are her issues. My dad works at the same place as me, so usually he'll text me in the morning to make sure I'm awake, he'll keep texting until I answer, or eventually call. I keep my phone volume all the way up so I can hear. A lot of the times I don't answer within the first time, and by the second text, my girlfriend wakes up. Then there are my alarms. I snooze them a lot because I set them early, so when I wake up, I know I have some time to sleep still. These usually wake her up too. It's just part of my routine. She's a very light sleeper and has trouble going back to sleep once she is up. She gets so angry with me when this happens because she says she's exhausted. She's in college too, so she's up late doing homework usually, despite having to get up and work the next day as well. We've tried a few solutions like her wearing headphones or an alarm clock that turns the light on, and it still doesn't help either of us. She thinks I'm an a-hole because I just won't get up when my alarm goes off, or my dad texts me. She says that would solve all our issues and that I'm an a-hole for not doing the simple solution so she can get a bit of sleep. I say she needs to learn to live with my routine. Am I the a-hole here? If that's your answer, then I say you need to start learning to live without your girlfriend. Time and time again, we get similar situations of partners not allowing their significant other a proper amount of sleep, and then getting mad when that partner expresses frustration or upset about said lack of sleep. Your morning routine isn't set in stone, and is absolutely subject to change. The problem here is you don't want your routine to change. You just want to force your girlfriend into being okay with it. That in and of itself is abusive and more than enough to warrant her breaking up with you. Plus the fact that your dad has to constantly text you again and again and again until you get up shows you are not mature in the slightest and you refuse to mature. How old are you that you're living with your girlfriend and your dad still has to wake you up in the morning? Come on, man. You show a clear lack of empathy and understanding for her when you know she has a hard time falling asleep once awoken and has a huge demand on her energy during the day with study and work. You see all of this, and yet you choose to continue to deprive her of sleep, then tell her to suck it up. Do her a favor and either leave or find a different bedroom to sleep in. You're the a-hole. Now in the comments, Ruka from the East Side says, You're the a-hole. She slept with headphones on so that you could snooze your alarm a few times. Literally sleeping with headphones, all so you can have multiple alarms to wake you up. Can you imagine the discomfort of sleeping with headphones just so you can enjoy an extra couple 10 minutes of sleep? Just wake up when your alarm goes off and put your dad's texts on silent if he's going to be texting so much in the morning. Edit to add, thank you for all the upvotes and rewards. Because so many of you have pointed this out, I wanted to add to my comments so that everyone can see this little gem of a link at the top. This is not the first time OP was an a-hole on Reddit. Same dude who didn't do anything for his girlfriend for her birthday. He deleted his post, but it's still there in the comments. Not to mention, OP can still get the extra 10 minutes. Just set the alarm for the time you actually want to get up. There is absolutely no legitimate reason to set the alarm earlier than the time you want to wake up to just snooze it a bunch of times, unless you're being intentionally annoying. You're the a-hole. Why are you still with that girl? Between this post, me, and oh, poor me, And the last one you deleted, which, surprise, you can still find it, where you dragged your feet for months to plan something for her birthday, and you couldn't be bothered until the last couple of days? Please set that girl free. You absolutely don't deserve her. You're a major a-hole, and you've got a lot of growing up to do before you'll ever be ready for an equal relationship. You're the a-hole. You've spoken all about your problems, some of which are legit. You haven't explained why they should be her problem though, so I'll give you a hint. They aren't. You need to adapt your routine so that it's not hurting the people around you. That involves training yourself to get up with minimal alarms. Certainly not snoozing everything because you can't be asked to shift yourself. You should care about your girlfriend's sleep. It's important for her health. If you don't care about her well-being, perhaps you should reconsider the relationship. If you keep showing her that you don't care about her health and well-being and are happy to have lots of alarms that wake her up, I guarantee you that she will reconsider the relationship. Imagine instead if she kept you up for 2.5 hours each night when you're trying to sleep, and instead of changing her habits, told you that you need to learn to live with her routine. This. OP, you're the a-hole and a very inconsiderate one. You're an adult now. Get up on your first alarm. If you're struggling that much, go to bed earlier. And tell your dad to stop texting and calling and put your turned all the way up phone on Do Not Disturb until you have left the house. These are common courtesies. I'm sure your girlfriend feels immensely disrespected by you, so it's probably just a matter of time before she leaves if you keep this up. Posted by user BRRWQ, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin to leave after she saw my plastic straw stockpile and accused me of destroying the environment? I, 20 female, have neuromuscular disabilities. I cannot drink things without a straw and lid. I need a lid so I don't spill. A straw because I cannot lift drinks to my mouth and have difficulty getting liquid to the back of my mouth to swallow. Straws alleviate this problem. Plastic straws are necessary because biodegradable and paper ones break apart easily. Silicone is not flexible enough. Metal straws get hot and too cold, easily, and are inflexible, which hurts my mouth and makes it impossible to swallow. My city is currently laying out plans to ban plastic straws, and it's already been implemented in some areas. I'm currently stockpiling. My cousin came around to drop something off a few days ago and found my stockpile when she opened a cupboard. She immediately goes on about how plastic straws are convenient, but you're destroying the environment. Just get reusable straws, etc. She's super passionate about the environment if you can't tell. I tell her to leave, and she drove off really upset. My mum comes home later, and I tell her what happened. Mum's upset that I told her to leave because my aunt apparently got angry at my mum for me being rude, and that I probably should have explained to her why I need straws instead. That the majority of people who support straw bans don't realize that single-use straws are usually the only way that people with certain disabilities can get hydration safely. I needed to educate her, according to Mum. I can see why people would disagree with me here on this one in the comments, but at least hear me out. I'm just gonna go with a soft everyone sucks here vote for this one, because I'm very much on OP's side for this. The crux of the matter is that this didn't have to escalate to the screaming match it became, with OP choosing not to communicate. Communication is vital in these situations in order to get people on your side. Instead of explaining things in a calm manner, OP decided to yell at this person to get out of their house. Yes, OP's feelings are valid, since a bunch of emotions would have cropped up from being antagonized like that, but that's not an excuse for their actions, and consequently, not apologizing for not elaborating further. Yes, I think an apology is necessary, as OP knew what they were doing, they know these people better than us, and they knew it would end like this. Obviously, the other party is the a-hole here for blind accusations and for antagonizing OP. I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt that their heart was in the right place, but without me being there in person to understand the tone of their voice and the context of their relationship and that interaction, I can't say for sure that it was kind-spirited. So yeah, everyone sucks here. Learn how to communicate better, OP. In the comments, Just the Bean says, not the a-hole. The ableism in the Green movement is maddening, and their initiatives are often performative. The straw situation, for example, performative. They make up a tiny percentage of plastic pollution and are an important accessibility measure. If the movement wants to impact plastic in the ocean, they should be a thorn in the side of corporates fishing, which contribute upwards of 70% of plastic in the ocean, not disabled people. Edit, because I'm being misinterpreted. I never said the cousin is ableist, I said the movement is. Edit 2, the 70% refers specifically to plastics on the ocean floor, particularly ridges. It is also accurate with regards to macroplastics. My apologies for stating it as a generalization. I had no idea this post would blow up. Yes, this is so correct and makes me so mad. My dad was a stroke survivor and literally could not drink anything without a straw. We also had to be careful about hygiene because he was medically fragile. Constantly cleaning multiple reusable straws, which are expensive for seniors on a fixed income, is extra labor in an already crappy situation. Not the a-hole. Being disabled is generally not environmentally friendly, and healthy people who have a choice about what products they prefer to use really need to realize that it's not a choice for everyone. Although straw bans are well intended, any law or ordinance that doesn't take people with disabilities into account is incredibly flawed. Everyone sucks here, but a soft one towards you. Straw bans are stupid, bad for many people with disabilities, and as far as I can tell, practically meaningless from an environmental standpoint, and in my opinion, saps energy from actually effective policies. If this was some stranger coming up to you at a restaurant and giving you crap, telling them just to go away is right. But in this case, where you're interacting with a family member you presumably see somewhat often, I think you should give a brief explanation before kicking them out. A simple, I have a health condition that is best dealt with plastic straws, I think is a way to show that you hear your cousin's concerns, but there are specific important reasons for you to do this, which you did take the time to explain to internet strangers, since it does make you look much better. If she keeps badgering you about it or is digging into exactly how bad your health condition is, then yeah, ask her to leave. You're not obligated to do so in some deep sense, and the general Am I the A-hole consensus is that it ends there. But I think giving a simple explanation for your behavior first, before upping the drama, is something that we should strive to do with people we care about, even the annoyingly zealous environmentalists in our life. If they still insist on ignoring your reasons, then yeah, kick them out. I could be misreading, and if you did say something along these lines, I'd revise it to not the a-hole. And Orbaub says, slight you're the a-hole here. Why didn't you explain it? Don't you think the whole thing could have been avoided if your cousin knew why you were upset? You know she's super passionate about the environment. Why didn't you take this opportunity to inform her that some people need the things she is passionate against? Posted by user Uncommon Rocks, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter she indulges her cat too much and needs to grow up for her own sake? My daughter, 28 female, lives in a very small apartment in town with her boyfriend because she's still a student. So clutter piles up quickly in a small space. I believe that living in a nice and clean environment is crucial for productivity and mental health. Her place isn't dirty, but the way she appeases her cats are chaotic and leads to a messy home. Last time I was there, I told her she needs to start keeping a grown-up home because she isn't a child and she isn't living in a dorm anymore. She needs to be more careful about tidying because she's aiming for a professional degree, and I think that living well now is preparation for that. Examples of the clutter are, she constantly has an old ratty blanket laying unfolded on her couch because the cat likes to nap there, and another in the corner of her bedroom for the same reason. There's a visible cat carrier with pillows and blankets in her main living space because the cat likes it. She has a little cat bed on her kitchen table and says the sun comes in there, and of course the cat likes it. There is a little cat nest in a shelf of every closet of the apartment, which limits storage space. There are cat toys on the floor. She keeps cat litter in a storage closet, and so the door is constantly open and it looks messy and you can see the litter. There are cat food dishes in multiple rooms and pieces of food are always littered around it and need sweeping. She even nailed up a cat shelf on the wall, which is just an ugly carpeted piece of wood. Overall, it looks like the cat's apartment rather than hers. She leaves water dishes in weird places like on side tables and under desks, which looks odd and messy. I know the cat sleeps in her bed with her, so leaving all these extra things around because the cat likes it looks really messy and is unnecessary. She is the pet owner and she can decide where the cat sleeps. She just refuses to and lives like this all the time. I have also had pets before and understand she loves the cats and wants it to be happy, but I never had an animal take over my home this way. She treats it like a roommate. I wasn't angry when I brought it up, just trying to get her to see how she could live in a nicer environment if she dialed back on cat space. I said she should try to have a more adult home and focus on making it look nice and cozy for herself, not just living around an animal so she could prepare for professional life. She basically laughed and said thanks for the idea, but she won't take it, and said I'm being a bit of an a-hole. She wouldn't even consider it for a minute. I think she's being immature, and while she isn't being mean, I don't think it makes me an a-hole to try to guide her to a more adult way of living, but she sure does. Was I being an ass? You have some crazy, weird fascination with professional employment and the facade that being a professional brings. It's as if these professionals can't and don't separate their work lives from their personal lives, and a big step in their development is getting rid of companion animals and turning them into pets with little to no space for them in their own homes, just to save face and so it looks pretty and neat. The fact of the matter is that your daughter moved out and now has her own place. She can do with it as she sees fit, whenever, however, and whatever she wants. You're big mad because you can't control her anymore, and instead are deciding to change the goalposts by saying the cat is ruining her apartment and by proxy her professional career development. That's a big stretch into cuckoo land, lady. She's not done anything wrong here, and you're upset that she denied taking your advice. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Quote, last time I was there, I told her she needs to start keeping a grown-up home because she isn't a child anymore and she isn't living in a dorm anymore. End quote. When has anyone ever responded well to being talked to like that? As my mother always says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Agreed. This OP is so deeply you're the a-hole, they think criticism is an effective behavior modification. OP has never considered for a moment that her daughter chooses to live her life in her space the way she wants because she damn well can. If she wanted to live by OP's stringent rules, she'd live back at home. Just because OP doesn't think the daughter's environment is crucial for productivity and mental health, doesn't mean it isn't working for the daughter. Simply put, if it bothers OP so much, stay away and keep your stifling opinions with you. You're the a-hole. Things look messy and unnecessary in her apartment, and you don't like it? Good thing you don't live there then, isn't it? She's 28, she's an adult. I'm not sure that you really are though. OP sounds like my ex-mother-in-law. She still spends every visit tidying my ex's house. Our kids aren't allowed to have any toys or clothes visible in their own bedroom at his place, because she thinks it's messy. My daughter gave up playing with her Lego because she's not even allowed to have it on her desk to come back later to it. Their rooms look antiseptic, like hospital rooms. You're the a-hole for many reasons. Firstly, you lack understanding of how to look after a pet, such as your comment that the cat will sleep where your daughter chooses. This is just completely incorrect. A cat sleeps where it damn well pleases. You said that your daughter's apartment is small, meaning that for her cat to be happy, it needs enrichment like beds and toys. Otherwise, it will get very bored and frustrated and act out. How does a cat act out? By scratching up furniture, pissing on everything, screaming all day and night, and just generally being unbearable. In the end, imagine how you'd feel if you lived in a small apartment with one bed, no other furniture, and no computer, TV, phone, books, or any other form of entertainment, and you never get to leave. If you don't think you'd enjoy that, why expect another animal to live like it? Your daughter is clearly a very good pet owner. Secondly, your daughter is a grown woman and lives in her own home. It is her decision what her apartment looks like and how she treats her pets. She does not seem to want or need your suggestions that she change her way of life to suit you. Thirdly, none of what you described sounds particularly messy, except the food around the bowls. And frankly, if she went around sweeping up every time the cat spilt a little food, she'd have no time for anything else. I'm sure she's sweeping regularly. Otherwise, the scattering of food you mentioned would be significantly larger. So basically, the only complaint you have about her home is that it doesn't look how you'd want your home to look. So what? People are allowed different tastes to yours. Fourthly, your comment that she has to have a better looking home because she's about to get a degree? I'm due to graduate in the next few months, and my house is covered in cat beds and cat toys, and even a giant cat tree, as well as having a designated reptile room. Nothing is wrong with that. My mother is an academic with postgraduate degrees and is a successful professional. Her house is likewise covered in cat beds and blankets. My lecturers at university have pet furniture everywhere. One of them attended an online meeting last week with dirty plants lying on the sofa next to her because her dog had dug them up from the garden and put them there. Your idea of how a professional should keep their house seems completely disconnected from reality. Basically, you're allowed your own tastes and preferences regarding how you would have a home looking, but you become the a-hole as soon as you tried to push them on someone else and disapproved of them for disagreeing with you. Posted by user ThrowawayJDYE, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my daughter to return the wedding ring I had given her since she's no longer married? So my 55 female, daughter 34 female, got divorced 7 years ago after only having been married for just over 3 years. I had given her the wedding ring that had been passed down the female line of my family when her then boyfriend, now 53 male, proposed. My late husband and I all loved my daughter and her husband as a couple, and her husband endlessly doted on her. So when my daughter said she wanted to leave because her husband hoped she'd be a stay-at-home mother to her daughter and that he'd take care of all the bills, end of sentence. The divorce was painful and pretty much took my daughter from living very well and having the best of everything for her daughter to being financially crippled by extreme drags in court proceedings due to her ex's international financial activity. My late husband died unhappy that his grandchild was now dealing with the whiplash of seeing how well her father lived and how penny-pinching her mother had to be. My daughter continues to have money problems because child support was less than expected. This resentment over how my daughter quickly threw away what could have been a good life for her daughter and herself caused me to lean on my son's then girlfriend for emotional support. A friend once remarked snidely that my daughter had served her a coffee once while working as a barista after her divorce. My daughter blew up at me when I was upset about that encounter, and our conversations waned. My son now has been married to my daughter-in-law for 5 years. They have 3 kids together, and my daughter-in-law and I spend a lot of time together at their house, homeschooling them and managing all household business while my son is away. My daughter, meanwhile, has remained distant to me, and was always working odd hours and preferred to let her friend babysit her child in those early years. She recently moved closer to where we all live, and we've gotten together a few times. She's lost her job and has been asking around to see if there was any openings anywhere. One time after coming home from lunch with my daughter-in-law remarked that she saw my daughter was still wearing the family ring. I realized that I had said multiple times that because I knew my daughter-in-law was here to stay, that I wanted her to have the ring to thank her for being a good mum and wife. I asked my daughter-in-law if she still wanted the rings, and she said of course. So the next time I met up with my daughter, I said that I would help her, but I really hoped that she would give me my ring back because it was intended for a female family member who was married, and her ex-husband had gotten his ring back. My daughter started crying and said that this was not my ring but hers. She also said that she wanted to give it to her daughter and that her ex-husband had his lawyers yell at her to give the ring back, threatening to make things hard for her, and asked if I was going to do the same as well. Am I the a-hole for wanting the family ring to go to a woman who's become closer to me than anyone else? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I could be the a-hole for framing it as a quid pro quo situation where I'd only help her find work if she gave the ring back. I guess I was too focused on my relationship with my daughter-in-law and what we talked about. Why are you skirting around the real issue at hand and saying instead that you're framing it as a quid pro quo situation? It's so obvious that you don't like your daughter and you have an issue with her divorce. You only view your children as valuable and worthy of family heirlooms, or just valuable or worthy in general, if they're married. That's quite toxic behavior, and there's no way in hell she doesn't get that vibe from you. You absolutely are too focused on your daughter-in-law and instead are choosing to neglect and shame your daughter for her life circumstances instead. That ring was a gift. It is now hers, and you can't ask for it back since you gave up that right and are now salty about it. She's already been through enough with the lawyers and her ex-husband with the ring. Now she has to face threats from you too? Where's your empathy for your own child? What's wrong with you? You're the a-hole. In the comments, Tamika Olivia says, "Your daughter was dating someone 2 years younger than you. You seemed overly concerned with her socioeconomic status and how it reflects on you, and the reason she left the marriage was because she wanted to maintain some independence and not be completely dependent on her husband. You're the a-hole, you're playing dodgy with a lot of specifics, but I can just smell the a-hole here. Also, Christ alive, way to blame the daughter for being dragged in divorce proceedings by the wealthy, powerful dude with the international connections for the crime of wanting to not be a housewife. How dare she? And OP asked daughter-in-law if she wanted the ring before asking daughter? Yeah, OP, you super don't get to be sour at how distant your relationship is now. And don't forget, OP's daughter's ex-husband threw his own child into poverty. If he can't have a nanny bang maid, then he'll take his daughter's financial stability and go home. OP, you're the a-hole for being mad at your daughter for refusing to stay happily sold. Try being mad at your former son-in-law for being a lousy husband and father. Did you even read what OP said? The fact that child support is less than expected is clearly no fault of the rich man who was meant to be paying it, but entirely on the mother who just had to have a job and independence. Sarcasm, OP is gross. And not to mention, this is probably very accurate. Quote, if he can't have a nanny bang maid, then he'll take his daughter's financial stability and go home, end quote. I mean, who do you think initiated the divorce? I really doubt it was OP's daughter. Starting over with a new one is usually the solution favored by people who want to control others, not by people who want to exercise their own autonomy. Skippy2716 says, "Holy crap, you're the a-hole. Hugely. You look down on your daughter because she didn't want to become a stay-at-home forced to be dependent on her husband for a good life. 2. You fault her for having financial trouble when her ex can't be bothered to pay decent child support. 3. It's apparently the end of the world that your daughter served your tramp of a friend while working an honest job as a barista. 4. With all this, you are so self-absorbed that you can't figure out why your daughter would be distant with you. 5. Your focus is on the support that your daughter-in-law gave to you because your daughter disappointed you so badly. And 6. You have the unmitigated gall to all but tell her that she is no longer family because she isn't married? Lady, you are at least 6 different kinds of an a-hole by my count, and I hope your daughter finds the strength and self-respect to turn her back on you and find a life with people that aren't so selfish and cruel. And your daughter-in-law is an a-hole for trying to get the ring. Your daughter has every right to keep it for her own daughter, though I have no idea why she would want anything that reminded her of you. Honestly, if I were OP's daughter, I probably would have just taken off the ring, left it on the table, and never talked to that horrible creature again. OP may look and sound human, but that thing doesn't have a shred of human decency. Congrats, OP. You likely permanently lost your daughter. You're the a-hole, and I hope that your children are that heartless with you in your later years, as you are with the person that you for some reason still call a daughter, despite clearly not caring for them as a human. Posted by user LaDivorcee123, titled, Am I the a-hole for allowing my son to stop seeing his father? I, 47 female, have a son, 15 male, with my ex-husband, 45 male, with whom I have been divorced for a decade. In that time, we've had shared custody. I have my son for the week and he stays over his father's on the weekends. Over a year ago, my ex-husband has started seeing another woman, a widow, 30-something female, with a son, around 8 male, and recently moved them in. My son has been complaining to me about sharing his father's house and time with his dad's new girlfriend and her son. He explicitly said to me that it hurts that his father can no longer prioritize time for the two of them now that there's 4 of them, as every activity, meal, and event must now include them, especially during the pandemic. This week broke the camel's back. My son called me choking back tears and asked for me to pick him up from his father's house on Saturday. Literally the first thing he said to me was, "Am I old enough to change your custody agreement?" He then explained that his father removed the PlayStation he had got him for his birthday from his room and hooked it up in the living room, saying he had to share it with his father's girlfriend's son, as they were now a family. My son did the classic, "You're not my real mum" speech, and called me to pick him up. In doing so, he said some very foul things about his father's ex and even her son, which I refused to punish him for. I have always raised my son to speak his mind and have self-actualization and confidence. He is, admittedly, a rather antisocial young man, but the few people he considers friends he has very deep attachments to. I have always told him that he did not need to make friends with everyone and that there were very few people he was obligated to have in his life. He has made it clear that he has absolutely zero interest in acting as a big brother or a stepson, and while his father is entitled to his love, he wants nothing to do with it and is refusing to be in the house at the same time as his father's girlfriend or her son. I called my ex today after speaking to my son and let him know of these changes, and also that I would look into changing our custody agreement to better fit my son's wishes, which would pretty much give me full custody. Well, of course, my ex exploded at me, that I was raising my son to be self-centered, that it was unreasonable to refuse to be in the room with a woman who will one day be his stepmom, and that I was poisoning my son against him, and that he was too young to decide who he lived with. I relayed these struggles to a few of my friends, and I was surprised by how sympathetic they have been to my ex-husband. They think my son is being standoffish and rude, especially to my ex-husband's girlfriend's son. One even told me that this is what happens when you don't teach your son to share. So, am I the a-hole for seeking to change our custody agreement in accordance with the wishes of our 15-year-old son to no longer require him to see his father because he has no desire to be a part of a blended family? Edit to add, I'm sure what my son said was paraphrasing, but what he said to his father's girlfriend was, "My father's penis shouldn't dictate my life," and to her son, "I couldn't effing care less about you." It's not like he called them names, though he was rude. Sure, he didn't call them names, but he did worse, didn't he, OP? Edit to add 2, I must emphasize that changing the custody does not mean that he cannot see his father. I am not taking out a restraining order against his father. My son and I decided on full custody for myself, but he can go see his father whenever he wants, if he wants. Under our current agreement, my son must see his father every weekend, even if he's not comfortable there. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I may be the a-hole because I'm not encouraging my son to be accommodating or suggesting that he seek compromise. Rather, I'm allowing him to cut his father out of his life rather than learn to live with people he doesn't like. I think both parties have made mistakes here and are not taking time to think of what's best for everyone here in this situation. It's not like this is an uncommon scenario to find yourself in. I'm sure most people hear this and go, oh god, here we go again. Like, the usual reaction to a son like this is not to enable them and threaten the partner with completely retracting their custody. That's very unfair on them, and it's unfortunate because, more often than not, you do have that power. From what you've told me, he's not actually done anything horrendous that would warrant a complete disconnection of visiting rights and custody of his own son. Yes, your ex sucks for moving the PlayStation and going the wrong way about integrating the family. No one's perfect, and he made a mistake here. Your son reacted negatively to that. You both are a-holes for not teaching your son how to deal with situations like this that are high stress in a more positive way that doesn't end in him lashing out like he did. I hope you guys are able to bridge this gap and find the best solution that won't end up with your son hating his father for trying to make things work. Everyone sucks here. In the comments, Sport Ancient says, I'm gonna go with everyone sucks here. Your ex is an a-hole for pushing your son too hard to bond with his stepfamily instead of accepting that your son doesn't feel the same way and trying to find a compromise. You are an a-hole for not teaching your son to express himself respectfully, instead of saying foul things about people, especially his potential stepbrother, who, based on your own account, are innocent in all of this. You and your ex also are both a-holes, him more than you obviously, for focusing solely on the custody agreement instead of your son's relationship with his dad. By your own account, he wants and grieves his relationship with his dad. As parents, you need to put aside your resentments and come together to figure out what's best for your son. It sounds like what's best isn't no more dad time, it's dedicated father-son time, without the stepfamily always involved. If your ex really won't compromise on that, then fine, change the agreement. You aren't responsible for changing your ex's mind, but you should both see if you can find a better solution for your child. This hits the nail on the head. There are two parents here, and neither seems to be particularly concerned about creating an environment where the kid can thrive without divorced parents. The reasonable course of action in a situation like this would be to make the call to OP's ex and tell them, your son says he doesn't want to spend time at your house anymore. What are you going to do to improve the situation? He misses spending quality time with his dad. OP says, I am not preventing my son from having a relationship with his father. Changing custody does not put a restraining order on them. All I am removing is the compulsion under penalty of the law that he must be with his father every weekend. If my son wants to hang out with his dad on the weekend or any other day, he's more than welcome to. You're not facilitating solutions, you're entrenching positions. This is the father's responsibility. Stop pushing more labor onto single moms. The grown man can take responsibility and agency for fixing his relationship with his only child. No, this is a co-parenting responsibility. It doesn't have jack to do with single moms. Read a single mom. I'm a woman and a feminist. I feel like OP isn't being great in this situation. The dad's crimes seem to be finding another girlfriend and trying to get his only child to share a games console. I don't think these are grounds for the OP's son not to stay with the dad anymore, and I hope he doesn't tank his relationship with his dad over this. Everyone sucks here. Whatever your son said to his dad's girlfriend, he needs to apologize. Unless he was just trying to express how he felt and it came out wrong because he's a teen, and that's not how this sounds, he needs to learn that you can't just verbally abuse people you don't like or because you're angry. Especially because his dad seemed to be the one at fault. His dad has every right to move his new girlfriend and her son in after a year, and you didn't mention anything specifically bad about them. But he's obligated to make sure he gives your son one-on-one time to prevent just these feelings. Of course, your son is going to feel like his dad is choosing a new family, and his father should have never taken the PlayStation out of his room without asking, and should have been willing to take no for an answer. A crucial part of blending families with children is protecting the privacy, spaces, and property of those children. And you have to accept that your husband has a new partner, potentially wife and stepson someday. It seems that you might be using your son's hurt to play out your own anger at this situation. No. Make him apologize, then talk to his father about what led to his meltdown and what might help in the future. Is getting the court involved worth it? Is this even a situation where they could agree to giving you full custody? Everyone needs to stop being ridiculous. You're the a-hole. I'm choosing that over everyone sucks here, even though it may be true because, in doing so, he said some very foul things about his father's ex and even her son, which I refuse to punish him for. If you condone your son being verbally abusive to an 8-year-old, I have my doubts about the rest of your accounts. You are clearly an a-hole, and I think you've raised your son to be the same. Saying something about someone is not saying it to them. As written, there is zero evidence he was verbally abusive to an 8-year-old. He said the things in question to his mother. Does no one read? In the update it says he did direct some harsh words towards the 8-year-old as well. Posted by user ExactLook1657, titled, Am I the a-hole for buying my fiancé a new car? My fiancé and I have been together for 3 years and are getting married late next year, assuming things have improved in the world by then. She doesn't make a lot of money, so we split expenses 30-70, which I don't mind. Her car is a hunk of junk and would cost more to fix the broken AC than the entire car is worth, so she's been looking to get a new used car before the summer. Her birthday is coming up, so I decided to surprise her. I bought a beautiful 2017 Jeep Wrangler with under 30,000 miles, cruise control, power mirrors, and a working AC, of course. I woke her up this morning and led her out to the driveway where I had parked the car and handed her the keys. She says nothing. I tell her it's her new car. The first thing out of her mouth is, "Are you effing kidding me?" Huge fight ensues. She is literally screaming at me out in the driveway. Here are her grievances. She wanted a Honda Fit, which has much lower cargo capacity. She doesn't have any special need for a subcompact. Also never mentioned this before. She doesn't want to pay the insurance. I am covering the full car payment, so her insurance costs less than what she would have paid in payment plus insurance for a car she bought herself. She hates Jeeps. Literally has never said this before. She's pointed out Jeeps before and said they looked cool. Too low miles per gallon, her commute is only 10 miles, and she hates silver and grey cars, and wanted a bright blue or red car. Are you effing kidding me? Here's where I might be the a-hole. I called her a spoiled little brat because that last point especially really got me angry, and I took the car to work with me since she apparently didn't want it. She's been blowing up my phone all morning, basically demanding to know if I really bought the car and if it's too late to return it. I haven't responded, but I don't know if I'm fully justified or if I should just calm down first before I call her back. Are you kidding me? You're calling her a spoiled little brat for being mad that you bought her something that is a huge financial sink and it didn't go the right way or the way you wanted it to? She's entitled to be angry at you over this one. That's such a stupidly blind and ignorant thing for you to do. But I'm not surprised you don't see your wrongdoing here with your head so far up your own ass. Get off your little power trip and realize she doesn't want this car, she's not obligated to pay the insurance, and this could have easily been sorted by you communicating with her and doing this purchase as a team. How have you been with her for 3 years, but you don't have a lick of insight into what kind of car she needs? Do not use this as an excuse to abuse her. That's a trash move on your part, and you should be ashamed of yourself. You screwed up, you fix it, you're the a-hole. Now in the comments, you're the a-hole. You're dismissing all of her concerns because they aren't valid to you. Too low miles per gallon for her? Who cares? You think it's fine. It's an SUV and not a car? Who cares? You like the storage. It's a color she doesn't like? Who cares? You do. I doubt she was the only one screaming in the driveway. You were dismissive and apparently can't be bothered to know what kind of car she actually likes. You bought her a vehicle, sure, but it's one she doesn't like and had no say in. If she bought you a bright pink Prius, are you supposed to just say thank you and pretend to love it for the next 5 to 8 years? He bought himself a car. I'm shocked at the amount of people who still think she should just be grateful for a gift she didn't ask for, choose, or want. Just because he spent a lot of money, that doesn't make it a good gift. I feel like it would be a lot easier for people to see the problem here if he'd bought her a wedding dress. She needs one, and they're expensive, so who cares if it looks nothing like she envisioned, as long as it kinda sorta fits? I'm also willing to bet cash money that this isn't the first time this guy has completely disregarded his fiance's wishes and opinions. Judging from his comments, it hasn't occurred to him yet that not everyone is exactly like him and wants the exact same things as him. So I'm guessing that's why she got super mad. Because he pulled this crap again on her birthday. You're the a-hole. You don't buy someone something as big and important as a car without consulting them first. Or at least without being 100% sure you know exactly what they want, as opposed to what you think they should want. Take it back, and if you still want to help her out, offer to go shopping with her. Posted by user Throwaway Auburn, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my daughter if she was imagining her symptoms? 2 years ago, my ex-wife and I were going through a divorce that was made tough by the fact that our son, then 15, was dying of a brain tumor. I noticed that my daughter, 16 female, has started eating a lot more during that time. Always very late at night, but I was too occupied with dealing with my soon-to-be ex always yelling at me, saying I wasn't doing enough to be there for her emotionally, accusing me of abandonment and withholding affection, for me to realize that my daughter was also going to the bathroom to throw the food up that she ate. After the dust from the divorce cleared up, I found out about my daughter's bulimia from my ex-wife. My daughter told me she felt like her mind at times compels her to feel like she needs more and more food. After the talk and time had passed with my daughter adjusting to her new normal, I thought that she wasn't throwing up anymore. However, in the past few months, my daughter had admitted to feeling stressed because her mother was crying every day because they were approaching what would have been her brother's 18th birthday. My ex has also been stressed about her underwater mortgage. Yesterday, my fiancé and I had driven up to her vacation home for our planned Valentine's Day staycation. I get a call from my ex-wife saying that my daughter has been suffering from heart palpitations and was feeling faint, so she was admitted to the hospital. A few hours later, my daughter called and talked to me about her symptoms over the phone, saying she felt she was having a heart attack and said that she had started binging and purging again recently. A lot of the symptoms she was talking about I thought could have been also caused by an uptick in negative emotions. My daughter was bulimic before the past couple of months, and she herself said a lot of her physical needs came from her mind first. My daughter then asked if I could come see her soon, and I reminded her that I had planned this with my fiancé for a while now. My daughter sounded upset and said she really wanted me here, and I was suspicious that she subconsciously wanted to sabotage any plans I had because she was in an emotional roller coaster over her late brother's upcoming 18th birthday. I asked my daughter if she by any chance was imagining all her symptoms. I reminded her that she had admitted to needing to eat before realizing it was all in her head, and asked if this was another stunt her mind was pulling. My daughter got mad and said she literally nearly fainted and said she couldn't believe I thought she was faking. She then hung up on me. Later, my ex-wife said the hospital recommended her to a bulimia treatment program, and doctors said she risked cardiac arrest if she continued her habits. Am I the a-hole for being suspicious that my daughter was just jealous of my current happiness and trying to get attention for it? From the literature on eating disorders, I saw part of it was about attention. I myself don't know too much about the literature on eating disorders myself, but I'm pretty sure it's a big stretch to say the attention in this case is her being jealous of your current happiness. That's a ridiculously narcissistic way to view it that puts yourself above the mental state of your daughter, who is quite obviously suffering, and you've swept her under the rug. Why would she maliciously want to sabotage your happiness here? How is her asking for help and advice, when you yourself have said that those are symptoms of cardiac arrest, an attack on your happiness? What reality are you living in? Yes, you're the a-hole for asking your daughter if she was imagining symptoms. It seems like your goal here is to lose yet another child, and you're well on your way to doing that. What's wrong with you? Now in the comments, you refuse to believe your minor daughter, who said she was feeling ill, who was diagnosed with an eating disorder, and when doctors did confirm she was risking cardiac arrest, you're asking if you were the a-hole, that you think it has to do with your happiness. Yes, you're the a-hole. Eating disorders are the most deadly mental illnesses, due to the heart problems that they cause, and OP asked if she was imagining her symptoms. Unbelievable. OP, you're the a-hole. I would add that even if it wasn't a heart attack and it was a panic attack, which can present with similar symptoms, it is a real issue that needs help to address. Cardiac issues are super common with EDs. OP is you're the a-hole. It's nice that the impending anniversary of your son's death did nothing to interfere with your romantic weekend getaway and not being there for your fragile daughter. You're the a-hole. This is where I couldn't believe OP didn't even think about his son. How does that not affect him too? Well, that would be because all of the blood from Father of the Year's head went south to the other head. Posted by user CorrectSkin5151, titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I won't come to my child's birth? So my girlfriend has severe anxiety about everything, but mainly social situations. She's also currently 7 months pregnant with our second child. When she was around 4 months pregnant, she started talking about how she wanted to give birth at home and how much less stressful that environment would be. She claims that all of the nurses at the hospital are rude and give her panic attacks. She also pointed out that because of the pandemic, both her mum and I could be in the room rather than just one of us. I could tell when she was talking about it that she had put a lot of thought into it and was excited about it. It's her choice. Ultimately, I have no say since I can't force her to go to the hospital. I told her while it's up to her, if she chooses to give birth in our bathtub, I simply cannot support her decision. I told her that I will not be present. Literally anything could go wrong, and I don't want to be a witness to it. Her mum thinks she's being silly as well, but is going to be present. My girlfriend is very angry with me and is being really quiet. She says that I should just support her, but I'm not going to blindly support her awful choices. Am I the a-hole here? You both have valid reasons for sticking to the plans you want in this situation. Obviously, you can't force her to go to the hospital, regardless of it being in her best interests, and she can't force you to watch the birth of your child and be there to support her emotionally. Both of these choices are free to be criticized and should be something agreed on by couples going through these things. She can't agree on hospital, so you can't agree to be there to support her. I would say her crime is the lesser of two evils, as it's expected of you normally to be there for your partner to support them through this, albeit I would also argue yours is the lesser of two, since it puts her and your baby at higher risk of complications and possible death. I don't know, man. This one just sucks all around. Everyone sucks here. Now in the comments, Embarrassed Strain 4 says, everyone sucks here. OP has stated that girlfriend plans on having zero professional help for this birth, and only family members will be present. OP, you need to be there, and you need to hire a midwife or nurse that knows what they're doing for this home birth. It would be incredibly irresponsible for you not to do these things. Your girlfriend is being unreasonable by not wanting professional assistance with this birth. However, it's her choice whether to do it at home or a hospital. You can't force her hand there. If there will be zero professional help present, then absolutely everyone sucks here. OP needs to make sure his girlfriend and partner are in suitable hands. As someone who has been through labour, no medic or midwife present is just ludicrous and dangerous. OP should make this very clear. Info. Will there be any professionals present to help with the birth? If so, and if they're prepared for anything that can happen, then you needn't be worried about it. You do have a right to give input here since it's your child too. That said, not all fathers relish the idea of witnessing births, and if it gives you the willies, then it really wouldn't serve any purpose for you to be there. OP replies, she's so anxious that she doesn't even want a midwife there. Edit, I will say though, her mum is a former nurse, but she wasn't an L&D nurse. I feel like people don't realize how dangerous giving birth is. Everything seemed fine during my son's birth, until I passed out 2 hours later. Come to find out, I'd hemorrhaged. I would be dead if I hadn't been at the hospital. She absolutely needs some kind of professional there. My son was born having a seizure and not breathing. Not a good combo outside of a hospital. My son-in-law had not one, but 2 home births. Both had midwives and midwife assistants, specialized birthing tubs, and they were 5 to 7 minutes from a hospital. Both my nieces were born healthy. My next-door neighbor has had 4 unassisted home births. 2 of them ended in babies born in ambulances rushing to the ER. One of those births triggered a call from CPS, and she's lucky. Unassisted home births can lead to tragedy. Google can give you specific stories. They're heartbreaking. I really want to say everyone sucks here, but I can't. As a mother of 3, you are not the a-hole. This is her 2nd baby. She should know plans go astray when kids are involved, and pregnancy can seem risk-free, but can change in a heartbeat. She is being irresponsible with her and her child's life. To all those who said you're the a-hole, guys, have you ever thought what would happen if there was a serious complication and their firstborn sees it? Childbirth is natural, but also very bloody. Women and babies still die in childbirth, and this woman doesn't want any medical help. You need to contact her midwife. She needs counseling ASAP. She needs help. Chin up and hopefully things will get better. Posted by user Clockwork Apples. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not changing my daughter's name? So my 32 male, wife, 30 female, gave birth to our first child 2 weeks ago. We struggled coming up with names throughout the pregnancy and didn't have a name yet when she was born. My wife's sister, 27 female, and her husband came to visit us and the baby, so we asked her for name suggestions since she was usually good at this type of stuff. She said she had a list of names picked out since she was a teenager and told us some of the names on her list. One of them was Freya, which we really loved. We asked her if we could use it, and she was a little hesitant at first, but since she wasn't planning on having children soon, she said that we could have it and she would probably come up with more names later. A couple days ago, my wife's sister found out she was pregnant. We were really happy for her, but then she came over to talk and asked us to change our daughter's name because she wanted to use it for her baby. We've been calling my daughter Freya for the last week and a half, and we already feel pretty attached to the name. Plus, she already said that we could take it. So we asked her if she could just use a different name, and she got mad and said she had the name picked out since she was 15. We feel kinda bad, but she doesn't even know if the baby will be a girl. Are we the a-holes here? This is a case of too little too late. Sure, an argument could be made for everyone sucks here, but I don't buy that. It's unreasonable to ask parents to change the name of their baby when it's already born. That one's already set in stone and would just breed more resentment if they were to agree and change it. Sure, she's held onto it since she was 15, but that's her fault for sharing and agreeing on the passing over of the name that those two wanted for their child. Yes, that's a dick move to say, but it really is her fault. It's too late to reverse that decision, especially when she doesn't know the gender of her own baby. Not the a-hole OP. Now in the comments, RitPostRit says, "Everyone sucks here. You knew she really wanted that name. She was a fool for telling you the name she loves. If the baby is already born, it's unreasonable to ask you to change her name now." I'd agree if they were both talking about names they will name their future child, but OP said they liked that name and asked if they could use it, and were told yes. Having to change names after a baby is born and you've already grown attached to it is vastly different. She was pressured though. OP points out she hesitated, and she wasn't giving out those names as suggestions. It sounds like she was just sharing her personal list and not actually giving suggestions. OP crossed a social line by asking if they could use it at all, in my opinion. I worry that the sister is a bit of a pushover and is used to having her family push her for things she doesn't want to give or do. Just the impression I got anyway. Everyone sucks here. She did give you permission, but you admitted hesitantly. There were other Freyas in the world before your daughter was born, and there will be many more after. Your sister-in-law should just name her daughter Freya anyway, and when the cousins asks why they have the same name, you can tell them because you liked the same name. Her aunt told you it was her favorite. I disagree. The sister-in-law knew they were looking at names for the baby and showed them her list. She knew there were names on that list that she was attached to, so shouldn't have offered the list up at all if she didn't want them used. Not the a-hole. Obviously not the a-hole. If she wants to use it that badly, then when the baby comes, if it's still appropriate, she can use the name Freya too. The cousins will have a close bond over their shared names. Italian and Irish and Greek and other families do it all the time. I wish I could post the My Big Fat Greek wedding clip of all the cousins named Nick. Not the a-hole. Changing a name after the baby is born is an ordeal. If she feels that strongly about it, it's not that big of a deal to have two kids in the family with the same name. Posted by user The Depression of Trees. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for screaming at my parents when they went through my phone while I was asleep?" This happened this morning, and I am still shaking with rage. Let's begin with some backstory. I was planning on moving out into an apartment in February of 2020. Then the pandemic hit, and I was no longer able to move out due to the quarantine. Once the major quarantine was lifted, and we were able to go outside again, I still couldn't move out because my mother is severely immunocompromised. If she got the COVID, it would be a death sentence. So I was basically stuck at home, doing the majority of the housework and anything I could do to help. I typically do about 5 to 6 hours physical labor daily. Another thing you should know about me is that I'm transgender and was in the closet until about 3 months ago. I was outed by my piece of crap brother. For about 2 months, my parents bordered on abusive. They would use slurs towards me and do their best to make me feel like crap. After I went to my therapist for help and she talked to them, they were no longer abusive, but still very unsupportive. I use Reddit on my phone, and I'm on several LGBT meme subreddits, and I download any memes that make me laugh, so I can send them to my friends. I keep my phone password protected, but haven't updated it in a while. This morning, I woke up, reached for my phone, and it wasn't there. I left my room and asked my parents if they'd seen my phone. They said that they had it. When I asked why, they said, "We were looking for any contraband." I asked them what they meant by contraband. They responded with, "Anything that doesn't fit with our values," and that they'd found what I was hiding. I was starting to get angry, so I asked what they'd found. They told me, "We found things of an unholy nature, unsuitable for the eyes of any of God's children." It was my memes. They started to chew me out for having content of an evil nature and that there will be serious consequences. I was seriously pissed off. They had come into my room while I was sleeping, taken my phone, cracked the passcode, looked through my photos, messages, and everything else. 3 months of anger at how they'd treated me exploded. I started screaming about how they were unfit to be parents, how I wished that they had died, how they'd made my life hell for months, how I have trust issues and PTSD from how they'd treated me as a child, how they hurt me and broken me. I screamed for about 10 minutes, and when I was done, my mom started crying. She tried to explain herself, and I told her to shove her excuses up her ass. I think I might have gone too far, but I was so angry that I didn't care. Well, Reddit, am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might have gone too far with my criticism and anger at my parents. I might have said some stuff that I really shouldn't have. I don't think there's anything you could have said in this situation that wasn't warranted after what they've put you through. This last year has been hard enough as is without them making it even more of a struggle, and now outright attacking you for the way that you are and what makes you happy. I don't have all too much to say besides get out of there as soon as you can. It's not a safe environment for you, as these situations just escalate the longer they go on. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Engineering Own 2299 says, "Not the a-hole. 5 to 6 hours physical labor daily? How frickin' messy is your house that this is a daily occurrence?" Very, very messy. My father is basically a hoarder, and my mother is allergic to dust. That means dusting and vacuuming every day. We're always looking for more storage space, so I build bookshelves. My mother's vision is failing, so we install new sources of light about every week. Plus, we have a garden that needs raking, weeding, mulching, shoveling snow, etc. Not the a-hole. Your parents need a nursing home, not a live-in slave they can abuse. And don't worry about the pandemic. If you leave and don't go back, you won't have to worry about giving your mother the virus. Not the a-hole. Don't believe the crying. Sending good vibes with the hope that you can move out soon. Thank you. I'm hoping to get out of here as soon as I have the chance. Just go. You said you were planning on it before. Your parents would have to take care of themselves before, and they will figure out what to do after you leave. Agreed. Just do it. Your parents have given you no courtesy. You don't need to give them any. I'm sure you can find a way to safely move out. Do it ASAP. Not the a-hole, and you need to go ahead and move out. I'm sorry that your parents aren't accepting you for who you are. As a Christian, I believe we're all children of God, and He made you exactly the way you are, and you deserve to be loved for who you are. Separate yourself from this situation as soon as humanly possible, even if it means going to stay with friends until an apartment is ready. Big hugs to you. Posted by user Desperate Objective 76, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not telling my kids I plan to pay off their student loans?" So first of all, I believe that people don't spend others' money the way they would their own. I think paying for your own things helps to understand their worth and cost. I have 2 adult children, Susan 26 female and Emily 25 female, with my husband. We do okay for ourselves, but don't have a ton of disposable income. We told our kids in high school that we do not have the money to pay for their college. We can help with signing loans, and they can live with us rent-free as long as they're in some type of school. But we wouldn't be able to give them money directly. We talked about how whatever they do need, to make sure it's worth the cost to them, either because they will make good money when they graduate, or because it's their passion. Susan tried to keep her student loans as low as possible by going to a community college and living at home for 2 years before transferring to the school she really wanted. saying that it wasn't worth going into more debt when she can accomplish the same thing for less money. Emily was less concerned and went to the school she wanted to from the start, and claimed it was worth it for the full college experience. Susan graduated with $20,000 in student debt, and Emily graduated with $60,000. Now that both kids are done with school and are living on their own, me and my husband decided to sell our current house and get a smaller one. There was enough profit to fully pay off both girls' student loans and have some left over for renovations and retirement savings. I had always planned to do this, but because I wanted the kids to at least plan to pay for their own school, and because you never know what can happen in life, I did not tell my kids about the plan. Now Susan is incredibly mad. She said if she had known I was going to pay off their loans, she would have just gone to the school that she wanted from the beginning. I feel like if it wasn't worth $60,000 of her money, why is it suddenly worth $60,000 of mine? Susan thinks I should split the money and they each get $40,000 instead. But I wanted them to be able to live without this debt hanging over them, not leave one daughter with debt and the other with $20,000 in disposable income. Susan has complained to my family and they're split. Some saying I'm punishing Susan for being smart with her money, while others feel that Susan is being unreasonable and should be happy I'm paying off the loans. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I believe I might be an a-hole because one daughter is objectively getting much more money from me than the other, and she would have made different decisions had she known help was on the table. You make a pretty convincing argument as to why you're the a-hole here, and I've got to say, I do agree with you. One daughter is objectively getting much more from you than the other, and this is entirely your fault. You chose to lie to them about your intentions and helping them out later by paying off their debt, and now you've landed between a rock and a very hard place. Your statement, I feel like if it wasn't worth $60,000 of her money, why is it suddenly worth $60,000 of mine, is entirely false. The $60,000 was worth her money because you made it clear you weren't going to support her, and you knew that. Maybe this isn't worth the cost now because they won't make good money, or it won't entirely be their passion because they had to compromise to get the best option for themselves at the time. And I understand that these two aren't entitled to your money, and they should be grateful for you teaching them valuable life skills previous to this. They should also be grateful that you are in fact giving them money to help live a debt-free life from this point. You just went about teaching them these lessons entirely the wrong way, and now there's going to be animosity from either child, no matter how you split the money you give them. Best of luck with that one. You're the a-hole. In the comments, MeLight says, you're the a-hole. Give both the same amount, please. One received better education and lived a joyful life, and you're trying to punish the other for being responsible. Pay 40 of for one, the 20 for the other, and then give her 20 additionally. It would be really unfair not to, and your kid might be mad forever. Yeah, what a crappy message to send your kids. In addition to punishing one for being responsible, OP is also, hopefully inadvertently, playing favorites by giving one kid $40,000 more than the other. That is a huge difference, and might be viewed as them loving one daughter more than the other. Also, a great way to cause resentment between the sisters too. Except no a-holes here. Your intentions are good, but I would keep it equal. They're still young, so if you're uncomfortable with one of them getting $20,000 in cash, start a retirement fund for them with the $20,000, or put it in a special savings account for them to use for a house down payment when the time comes. 26 isn't too young to know what to do with $20,000 in cash, especially if she's cautious enough with money to go to community college, rather than take out loans at 18/19. You're the a-hole. You planned to pay off their debt and never told them. Susan didn't choose the cheaper option because her education wasn't worth $60,000, she chose it because she didn't want a life of debt. Her being angry is justified. She missed a lot of the average college experience in order to avoid the debt. To make the statement that Susan pretty much didn't value her education as much is BS. The fact that Emily spent more money for a more traditional college has nothing to do with her valuation of her education. This is also a large sum difference, being that you were giving Emily $40,000 more of value when she already got an education without the sacrifices Susan had to make. And Pear-Shaped 34 says, "You're the a-hole. I'm with Susan. The fair thing to do would be to give them the same out of the house regardless of the size of their debt. You were giving one daughter 3 times more than the other because she chose to run up more debt. Of course, Susan doesn't see that as fair because it's not. To be clear here, what you are doing is very generous, but you should treat your kids equally, obviously. The fact you don't seem to think anything is wrong with giving one daughter 3 times more than the other makes me suspect they have not grown up in a fair and equal household, so I suspect her hurt probably runs deeper than just the money." Posted by user Granola Bar Hysteria. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for not letting my son claim a box of granola bars?" So my son, 16, has a favorite kind of granola bar. We always buy him a huge box so they last longer. The issue is, he freaks out if anyone else has one. We never eat the last one, but they're pretty good, and it makes for a good snack. He has scared his sister, 14, out of eating any due to his freak out when she dared to eat one. My wife isn't a fan, so she never has one. I refuse to be bullied out of eating one of like 40 granola bars. Yesterday, I grabbed one, and my son started on me. "Why are you eating my granola bars?" I held up a hand and told him, "They are not your granola bars, you did not buy them. They're for the house and everyone can have some. There's a ton left and I can have one. In the future, if your sister wants one too, she can." He got pissed. My wife told me just to have something else and I said no, leaving to enjoy it. My son apparently wrote his name on the box with a Sharpie. I put tape over it and put our last name family. My wife says I'm being petty, but I find all of this ridiculous. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Some FAQs. My son isn't autistic and doesn't have an eating disorder. I said we buy him, but I meant that we buy the box. He primarily eats them, but occasionally my daughter and I want to have one. They're not bought just for him. The granola bars in question are the chocolate chip Kirkland bars from Costco. You're not being too harsh in this situation. He's being controlling over something as small as granola bars, which are traditionally shared amongst a household. He's not a kid anymore, he's 16, he knows how to share, and knows that hogging food like this isn't a good look. Time for him to do some growing up and learn to play with the rest of the kids, not being a jealous little baby who hogs the toys from everyone else, because he is being entirely childish in this situation. You are absolutely within your rights as his parents to call him out publicly in front of the family and make a show of his little tantrums. He deserves to be embarrassed for what he's doing so he learns his lesson. I would encourage you to keep doing it and have more talks with him as to why he wants to hog these bars. And from my personal experience, positive reinforcement doesn't often work with 16-year-old boys in situations like this. Negative reinforcement like you have been doing is usually the way to go. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Midizimbel says, "Not the a-hole. If he wants his own box, he's 16. He can pay for his own box." Ooh, he's 16? I completely skipped over that part while reading. From his behavior, I was just imagining a petulant 6-year-old child and not a young adult. Please do not insult 6-year-old children. A lot of them have better manners than this. I can confirm this as someone with a 6-year-old, who offers me a granola bar first before taking one for himself. Not the a-hole. My 5-year-old got a surprise of M&Ms in our advent calendar. I'd put in 4 for him and 4 for his sister. He opened the drawer, counted them out and went, "Hooray! 2 each for you, me, mummy, and daddy." Not the a-hole. This is a pivotal moment for your son. Your son needs to learn to share. He's lacking gratitude and showing no understanding for the fact that food costs money and whoever buys it owns it. Don't let this one go. Hammer this lesson home and he'll be a better son, brother, roommate, significant other, friend, etc. in the future because of it. He should have learned this a long time ago. He's 16, not 3. Of course he should have, and he probably did. But 16-year-old boys kind of revert to the worst, most selfish versions of themselves as they are consumed with their social lives and thinking they know everything. It's a good time for some basic refreshers on how to be a good human. 16 is the worst age, boys and girls alike. It's like we all become legitimately insane. You couldn't pay me to be 16 again. I compare teenagers to 2-year-olds. This difference is you can't easily pick up and move a teenager. Between hormones, trying to be independent, be an adult, and yet a child at the same time, they do become bonkers. I remember adults telling me my teens were the best time of my life. It gave me no hope for the future. Fortunately, it got much better. Not the a-hole. Tell him to share or buy them himself. You need to nip that selfish crap in the bud. If I was OP, I'd stop buying them altogether. My brother and I had the biggest, world's stupidest fight over the last Mountain Dew when we were in high school, and my mum stopped buying soda for 6 months. If we wanted any, we had to buy it ourselves. By the time she started buying it again, we both had largely lost our taste for it and joke about World War Dew now as adults. In my house, if you drank the last Mountain Dew, Mum would drag your ass to the car, drive you to the store, and make you go in at 10 p.m. to get some so she'd have enough for her bottle the next morning. Large insulated cup that she filled with ice and Mountain Dew to drink over the next day while at work. My mum has 2 addictions, tobacco and Mountain Dew. She doesn't even like going to restaurants that have Coke products instead of Pepsi. I asked her the other day what she would do if Pepsi just stopped making Mountain Dew altogether. Her exact words were, "Don't even go there." Last time I went over to her house, she had about 8 dozen cans of Mountain Dew in her pantry. We've tried to get her to cut back, but she refuses. Posted by user Cerberus Among Sheep. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister, try staying married longer than a year before giving me marriage advice? Look, I know the title sounds bad, but give me a chance to explain. My husband and I like to make rules for our life. I find there's a lot of freedom in rules. I know I can do whatever I want inside a certain set of parameters, and there is no way my husband will have an issue with anything. Same goes for him. To be clear, I'm more passive and he is more alpha in the relationship, but I prefer that in a partner. That was one of the qualities that attracted me to him. However, we both make rules for ourselves. Tonight we were having a Zoom double date for Valentine's Day, when my husband said, "New family rule. From now on, we will only buy Perrier water instead of San Pellegrino." I laughed and said, "Haha, seconded." My sister said that it was weird that we made rules, and it didn't seem like it was a healthy thing to do in a relationship. That it's controlling. What if I like San Pellegrino? I explained that we both have to agree in order for a new rule to be added. She just kept saying negative things about my relationship and how I need to be a strong, independent woman that don't need no rules. I got upset. I like the rules, and she was making my husband out to be some controlling, crazy person that he isn't. I got so fed up with her badgering that I snapped and said, "Try staying married longer than a year before giving me marriage advice." She screamed in outrage and notified me that her daughter, my niece, was in the room doing her homework and heard me, that I disrespected her, and worse, did it in front of her daughter. I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I was mid-responding to a comment post when the post got deleted, so I'll share it here. They had some questions. Wow, I know this comment doesn't reflect on me in the best light, but it's awesome. You went through a lot of work into reading through my previous posts and comments, and I hope you weren't bored to tears. I feel both honored and insecure at the same time. I will try my best to answer all the things you brought up. Most of my friends are and were guys from school. It's always been easier to make guy friends. After school ended, we never saw each other anymore in person, and they just became text/online friends. After getting married, my husband and I both agreed no friends of the opposite sex. I don't want to pull all the blame on him for this rule, so the male friends I still had, I explained to them the situation, and they wished me the best in life. You were correct in that my sister is aware of the rule system. I'm not sure which ones you guys will think are weird because I thought the no friends of the opposite sex was normal. My parents are the same way, so I wasn't leaving out critical information on purpose. I use the term alpha because people understand what it means. I wanted to use the word dominant partner, but I thought people would think we were into BDSM, which we aren't, even though there's nothing wrong with BDSM within consenting adults. I like having a partner that's more dominant. My parents are both equal, and they have 4-hour-long arguments about things they don't want to concede an inch of power. I don't care about the little things, and I'd rather have a happy life than fight every day. I don't know. It's just what I wanted, and if I'm not bothering anybody else, it shouldn't be an issue. You were correct that I married my boyfriend last year, so we haven't reached the long-term relationship of 20+ years. However, I'm not the one giving people unwanted relationship advice. All I was trying to convey in my snap was that she was in no place to give advice. He can be quite stubborn, but when something matters to me, I can and will use my voice to stand up for myself. Thank you for reading and for taking the time to respond. I hope I addressed everything. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. My sister called me an a-hole for disrespecting her, and worse, doing it in front of her daughter. That I always shame her for being divorced multiple times, and I'm not supporting her for doing the brave thing and leaving these bad men. I'm gonna have to go with everyone sucks here for this one. Like, I could admit what the sister said was crappy, but you definitely didn't need to escalate the situation like you did. Those are things that you keep to yourself and not scream out at your friends. You should know better than that. Also, I'm not too sure I can call her an a-hole in this situation from what you've shared, since it seems heavily biased and missing lots of details, but I'm still going to go with everyone sucks here, just to be on the safer side. It's leaning between that and you're the a-hole. Now in the comments, Dinesh Lee says, "You're the a-hole, OP, you're the a-hole." I can't believe how many not the a-holes you're getting, or rather, I can, but it's because you left out so many key details in your biased account in the OP. So I and others have had to do some comment diving to find clues. Your relationship rules do sound pretty crazy and controlling. No opposite sex friends? Red flag. I can see why your sister hit a nerve. As a side note, what happened to most of your friends being guys? Does hubby know about this flagrant rule breaking? But have you considered that your sister may have been genuinely concerned about your well-being, rather than just taking a chance to have a go at you? If my sister was living with that set of relationship rules, even consentingly, I'd be worried. This innocent-seeming water bullcrap was not the first time you told her about your rules system. We don't know which other rules she knows about already. Maybe some of the weirder ones that would be a cause for legitimate concern? Personally, if you were my sister, I'd also be concerned that you met this alpha INTP, what? When he slid into your DMs on Reddit. I'm willing to accept that's me being judgmental, but that's kind of the point of this subreddit. So maybe from her perspective, she was calling your husband out on his controlling bullcrap and trying to protect you. It's hard for us to know with such scant information. We don't have her side of the story, but it's not difficult to imagine that possibility. You, on the other hand, escalated massively by bringing up your sister's 2 previous failed marriages in front of her husband. I can't see how that could be justifiable, and as far as I can see, you haven't managed to justify it in the comments. No, going from 0 to 100 real quick is not some immutable character trait that you can't help, no matter what your dad says, and it doesn't matter how soft-spoken you consider yourself to be the rest of the time. In fact, that kind of justification is a telltale sign of an a-hole. Learn some bloody self-control. You are not a child. Plus, you posted about moving in with your boyfriend about a year ago. Maybe you should get off your high horse until you've been in a properly long-term relationship yourself, lol. But seriously, and perhaps most importantly, I think you should consider the possibility that your sister has a point and closely examine your relationship and whether it's healthy. I know you say you love the rules and they're freeing or whatever, but it sounds like a fairly new relationship. Will the rules still be fun in 5 years' time? Or might they start to feel more restrictive? What happens if you change your mind about a rule that you've already made? Particularly since you say your husband is incredibly stubborn, there is almost no chance of changing his mind. Red flags. These comments are full of people saying this reminds them of past abusive relationships. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, I'm saying you should be alive to the possibility. Could have gone everyone sucks here, but this post and your comments read like they were written by someone aged 16, not 30. So, shrug. I'm giving you some extra a-hole points for being petty and emotionally immature and giving your sister the benefit of the doubt. Yes, I think there are potentially wider issues hiding in this post, and I hope I'm wrong. But I'm also at least somewhat concerned for your well-being. But that doesn't have any bearing on who was the a-hole in this situation, which is what we're here for. You're the a-hole. Posted by user BipolarBird93, titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my dad and his fiancée to sort out their priorities? Me, female 27, and my husband, male 29, were talking about this the other day. We're not the most well off, especially with 2 kids of our own. We have bills sorted, groceries, and whatever is needed. We sometimes have spare money, which we put away for extra bits, milk, bread, etc. My dad and his fiancée have a 3-year-old. There's an age difference between them, but not. There has been a few cases where we've got them groceries when they've been short. My dad cannot physically work as he has crippling osteoarthritis. His fiancée is lazy with no job experience and a bad history of stealing from voluntary work. Problem is that after they buy their shopping and sort out bills, they don't keep money aside in case they need anything extra. They've been known to buy weed or random things. Money has been more tight since my dad's car needs fixing. But they still buy weed. My wedding just gone, I had to pay for their little one's outfit as they didn't prepare with the time they had in advance. Dad's fiancée forced her daughter to be a flower girl with my daughter. They babysit my daughter on a Thursday for a few hours while we do needed housework. She's a pocket rocket. And my husband went and collected her and saw that their little one didn't have any art stuff and was drawing with a black biro pen and old envelopes. So we've gone and bought a load of art things for her Christmas as it broke our hearts. I've got a message today asking for money as they need electricity. I'm still owed over £40 and have been known to let them off with their debts to me. I wouldn't be able to tell you how much. Would I be the a-hole if I sat down and said that they really need to figure out their priorities? I feel like the a-hole for interfering with their money and thinking of not helping them. Because this is beyond a joke now. His fiancée can go without weed. They need to sit and figure out their own finances. No, you wouldn't be the a-hole for sitting them down and telling them that they need to figure out their priorities. It seems like child neglect is one of their priorities that they're very happy to live with facilitating right now, as long as a steady supply of weed is coming in. It seems as though you're one of the only people in their lives that's actually able to slap them in the face with this reality, and I more than urge you to do it. That's disgusting behavior on their part, that they keep taking money from you and blowing it on the devil's lettuce instead of sorting out their finances first. She needs to clean up her act and stop destroying every paid opportunity that comes her way and actually be a carer for once. The husband has an excuse for not working, not her. Please go harder, OP, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Mr. Jeff Atkins says, not the a-hole. Although I fully sympathize with them, benefits in the UK at the moment are awful. I do feel that you shouldn't have to bail them out if they don't prioritize. I used to have to constantly bail out my ex, who wouldn't and couldn't work and spent too much money on weed, so I get where you're coming from as well. Unfortunately, getting someone to change their ways is going to be very difficult. OP replies, "Thank you. I was told once they had their kid, his fiancée decided to have a baby when I got pregnant, that she wouldn't be smoking or smoking weed. But to be honest, we've bailed them out so much, but I feel like I'm being taken for a mug now. My older sister, I was the youngest before my baby sister was born, has said that if they can afford weed and other things, then they should put that aside for things needed. I've said I'm always here if they need me, but with how things are going, I do feel like I'm being used. Me and my husband have in the past had to ask his man for help, and always paid back immediately, usually when an unexpected bill or something happens. But they haven't paid us money owed, and it's been months, but still managed to buy weed? I'm feeling a bit sour. I do feel like such an a-hole for feeling this way, as I'm usually so chill over it. If you keep bailing them out, they will never learn. You gotta stop enabling this behavior and let them figure it out the hard way. Not the a-hole. Their child is more important than weed." And OP replies, "Definitely. Like, I don't smoke or do drugs, I don't even drink. But if I did, damn right my kids would come first. I've gone without a fair few times to make sure my kids are well provided for. The amount of times I've used birthday and Christmas money gifted to me for the house, bills, food, or even just got the kids things. Yet there's people who don't. I can't understand it." And Cthulhu's son says, "You're the a-hole for being their private bank account for so long. Just make it clear you're not in a position to give them any more money. It's not lending if they never pay it back." OP replies, "I'm just worried that it'll affect my little sister. I can't see a child go without, no matter how disorganized her parents are. If they have more children, even if they don't have the means to give them a good life, are you okay to destroy your finances and possibly sour your marriage to bank their lives? You are an enabler for your father the same way he is for her. They, both of them, give you mental problems, and you still want them affecting your life to the core. Stop being a masochist, love yourself more, and let your father and his family sort themselves out. They can't have any more kids. Their kid was a sperm donor, as my dad had the snip when I was born, which is something she holds against me, saying, 'You're the reason your dad had to get the snip and we couldn't have biological kids.' And my dad said they'll only have the one. The only way she'll have any more, which she does and has been nagging for, is if she cheats on him, which she has done before. But you're right. It's definitely worth just talking to my dad about it all." That statement is enough to cut off stepmother. Your father and stepmother are adults. They chose to have a child. They choose to smoke weed. She chooses to not work by putting so many restrictions on what she will do. Be honest. They can stop with the weed, video games, etc. Help them one more time if you feel like you have to. Then tell them they're on their own. The information about budgeting and finances is easily available. They're adults, stop enabling them, and maybe they will learn to adult. If not, involve CPS for the sake of your 3-year-old sister. And now on to the update. So this is a smallish update. Hopefully I'll have another one in the coming weeks. I was talking to my older sister about the situation. Turns out things are a lot more worse than I thought. Turns out, according to my sister, 28 Annie, and her husband, my daughter was being blamed by my dad's missus for everything that was going wrong at my wedding. My daughter and baby sister were running riots and being toddlers, nothing out of the ordinary. My daughter, Sarah, was getting shouted at, while baby sister, Abby, was being worse but not being told off. So there's that. I don't think my daughter will be going to my dad's. Also, Annie told me older brother, 30, Mike, who is disabled and my dad is meant to be his carer, pretty much barely gets fed. Gets his dinner, as no one will make him anything. He can't cook for himself due to his disabilities. If he helps himself to stuff, he gets shouted at, "You're eating little Abby's food." But Mike pays to live there. They take the vast majority of his money. Yet there is next to nothing food-wise most of the time, and they always seem to find money for weed. Today, my dad's missus was bragging to me that she's going to let her female cat get pregnant and sell the litter. I was disgusted. So, I reported it. I was talking to my therapy assessor, and they're putting in a social services report anonymously for me. I'm scared because he will know one of us did it, but if it gets them the help they need, I'll live. Oh yeah, I'm going to be getting therapy for depression, anxiety, and CPTSD. I'm looking after myself now. And wow, I wasn't expecting this to be so popular. Well, I actually had a call yesterday. It has officially been referred to an adult and childcare. It's been done anonymously, so there is that. I've sent a link about Lucy's law to Dad's fiancé. The adult care have been told of her intentions too, so they'll be stopping that. The cat will be safe. My brother and baby sister will be getting the help they need. Dad and his fiancé will be getting help with getting off weed, financial advice, and things like that. I've told not a single soul about what I've done. If anything happens, I will tell them I mentioned my fears to my therapist, as it does cause me some anxiety. I had no idea she'd report it, as anything I say is confidential, but I understand why she did. I'm glad I've spoken up though. Now in the comments, Peggy HW says, "Wow, not a good situation. You were right to ask for help. This isn't something you were equipped to handle." And OP replies, "I would be lying if I said I wasn't crying and scared. I love my dad, but his enabling behavior and the fact that he's 60 and just can't sort his finances out is getting to me. I don't want my baby sister or my older brother to be screwed over. During my teen years, his fiancé pretty much spent all the money on weed, and there was next to nothing in the house, so I don't want it happening again. His fiancé is a drug addict, and he needs to realize buying a bit of weed is going to keep growing again. Can you become your brother's caretaker? Unfortunately, I live in a small 2-bed house with 2 kids, 1 girl and 1 boy. I also work, so I honestly wouldn't have the time. If push comes to shove and I end up having to take anyone in, I'll have to see about moving into a bigger place and quitting my job. You did the right thing calling social services for your brother and the baby. It's going to be anonymous. Hopefully they don't figure it out. I love my dad, but at the moment, they need help I can't provide. If they say anything to you about it or blame you for it, tell them exactly what I told my boss. All I did was vent to my therapist. I thought that my therapist was only mandated to report abuse to me or committed by me. I had absolutely no idea that my therapist would see you guys as abusive and report you. I'm so sorry this happened." And OP replies, "If it comes down to it, I'll say this. Thank you. I would get your brother out of there. Sadly, your sister will be another story. My older sister has said that she'd happily take him if anything happens. Things have happened. Your brother is not getting fed. That's not small. That's starvation. Yep, I only just found out, so I put in the reports. He pays his way, he should be able to get what he fancies, and my dad should be helping him make food. It's dawning on me that yes, we're adults, but we are still his children, but we've pretty much been forgotten about unless it benefits them." By the way, an easy way to prove negligence via nutrition is by having your brother evaluated by a doctor. Please insist his caseworker gets a full medical evaluation done on him. Malnutrition is the most obvious and easily detectable. A friend of mine had his elderly mother being cared for by his neglectful daughter. No one knew how bad it was. Daughter just abandoned grandma at the hospital one day, saying she had dementia, and signed her up for government care. Except she had a retirement fund with quite a bit to survive off of, and could have been put in private, which was a big red flag. After a week in the hospital, it turned out she didn't have dementia, she was extremely malnourished and delirious. An abuse report was filed. Turned out daughter had been stealing her grandma's retirement funds, funneled over $500K, and had blown it all on random crap, including buying her drug dealer a new truck. Huge fraud case, elder abuse, even her kids got taken away. All because of malnutrition. Luckily, grandma is fine. Enough was recovered and untouched to get her in a really good home. No one really knows what happened to the daughter, as she was cut off. Last my buddy heard, she had the audacity to come begging for money for a decent lawyer. Posted by user Clove3355. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that she's being cruel by blaming her father for her insecurities about her looks? So my husband and I have 3 daughters. They are all absolutely gorgeous. Our oldest, 19, and youngest, 13, look more like me, while our middle daughter, 17, looks more like her father. My husband definitely has more strong and unique features, but I find him incredibly good looking, which is why I even married him. Our middle daughter, however, has decided that her father is ugly, and by looking like him, so is she. I feel very sad that she's trying to compare herself to bullcrap beauty standards. Unfortunately, she's also been teased at school, and while we've managed to stop that, it hasn't helped the issue. Our daughter's problem with her appearance started when she was around 12, and despite therapy and us trying various techniques recommended by therapists, her attitude is unchanged. But it's really escalated the past few years when she's started blaming her father for inheriting his genes. I have shut her down every time, but my husband just lets her blame him if I'm not around. Recently, my poor husband broke down in tears while we were in bed and said he felt really guilty that our daughter looks like him and that he can't help that he's ugly. He has never had issues with his appearance before and was always very confident. I was completely crushed. My husband said that we should maybe look into paying for some of the plastic surgery that our daughter has demanded. I disagreed with that completely, and we fought over it. The next day, I confronted my daughter, and I told her I understand she has serious self-esteem issues, but she's being cruel to her father. This triggered a meltdown from her, and she hasn't talked to any of us since. She hasn't left her room in nearly 2 weeks. She won't even eat unless one of us leaves food outside her door. My husband is gutted and is still blaming himself. Was I wrong for what I said? No, you're not wrong for that at all. Saying the truth and pointing out the obvious fact that she has serious self-esteem issues and is being cruel to her father is not wrong. It's shutting down her abuse towards your husband that he did nothing to cause. You're being a good parent by tackling this directly. You are showing that you have a deep level of care and respect for these 2 people in your life by being the mediator and resolving it when they can't. Both of them need you to do this, as it's obvious they cannot and will not fix it themselves. She needs to let her meltdown pass and get some help in the therapy so she avoids doing this again in the future. Those are such unhealthy coping mechanisms that only stand to damage her relationships in the future if she continues. Good job, OP. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, KMachine42 says, Not the a-hole. Your daughter is clearly in the wrong here, and she's 17. She's old enough to start dealing with her issues, to be honest. I was expecting this kind of behavior from a 14-year-old. She can't change her appearance, but she can change her attitude. This is just a really toxic mindset to have, and worst thing is, she's blaming other people for something they have no control over, and the dad is letting it affect him. I know why he feels that way, but he needs to accept it's something he had no control over. I feel so bad for the father, but let's be honest about how men and women's bodies are treated differently. While we're inching towards a more egalitarian world on most gender issues, women are still penalized much more than men for being conventionally unattractive. Most teens are insecure, but this poor girl has gotten bullied for her looks, and it's her face that's the issue. This isn't something she can cover up or improve with exercise. That's a daily torture she can't easily avoid. I can empathize with her despair just as much as I can empathize with her father's newfound physical insecurity, grief, and guilt. My heart breaks more for him as an adult, because watching your kid suffer because of something she inherited from you must be traumatizing. But that young woman is having a very, very hard time, and tangentially, she can't change her appearance. Sure she can, and since she's 17, she can start saving money to pay for any procedure she likes once she's an adult. Not the a-hole at all. Your daughter is. With 17 years, she's old enough to understand that how she treats her dad is incredibly cruel. The prettiest, as well as the ugliest attribute a person can have is the attitude. It's not exactly how the physical features of a person are, but rather how this person presents and handles these features. If she wants to have the surgery, don't stop her from doing it, but I would not pay for it either. She can earn it herself. I don't know what she would like to fix, but she can manage to earn $3,000 in a year by working a couple of hours a week. Don't let your daughter treat your husband like that, and give all your attention to him. Men also like to hear that they are pretty and gorgeous. I 95% agree with this comment. My experience is that at 17, you are old enough to know that you are causing pain, but not to understand the impact. She 100% knows she's bullying him, but it will likely be years yet until she understands that her parents are people who hurt like she does. She needs to understand that she is doing to her father what others have done to her, and that they should both be confident and happy about how they look. Her attitude is causing both of them to be shaken. And now on to the update. So I've been asked for an update by a few people, so I thought I'd share. It's headed in the positive direction mostly. My daughter ended up moving to my parents' house last month, and while my husband and I were upset, the space definitely helped ease the tension at home. I go to see her every day on a walk, but she's still holding a grudge against her father and refuses to see him, which makes him incredibly sad. But one thing that was brought up in the last point was something that made me angry at first, but after a few days I saw the point. I love my children with all my heart, and to me, they're all incredibly beautiful. But I think I'm doing a disservice to my daughter by insisting to her that she is beautiful and not really trying to see her point of view. I am very attracted to my husband and find him very handsome, but objectively, he doesn't have traditional beautiful features, and my daughter has inherited those features. So I no longer try to convince my daughter that she's as beautiful as her sisters, because she's right that, as her mother, I don't see her how she sees herself. And I can't really relate to how she's feeling because I've never had those thoughts. My husband and I have agreed to let our daughter have a consultation with a plastic surgeon once the pandemic is over. And we'll pay for some of the procedures she wants. But we did agree that jaw shaving is not a procedure that we will be paying for. As much as it'll kill me that she wants to change the face I love and saw grow up, it's clearly a face that is ruining her mental health. And it's her choice what she wants to do with her body. I would rather pay for a proper surgeon than for her to do some cheap, illegal procedure somewhere else. My next steps are convincing my husband to get mental help himself for all of these negative emotions he's been harboring for a while. That's another challenge, that's for sure. And even more difficult is how to fix the relationship between my husband and my daughter. I'm just at a loss for that. I need to get them in a room with a therapist, and I'll be working on that. Thanks, everyone. Now in the comments, Bebe120 says, "Glad to hear that you've taken her insecurities seriously, but I would strongly recommend for therapy first before a consultation with a plastic surgeon because she's still a minor. Good luck." OP replies, "She's been going to therapy for several years now." Thanks for responding. And a very good thing if the therapy is about her self-image. But very troubling if she's still blaming her father for the way she looks, especially while in therapy. Is family therapy an option in this case? What does the therapist say about plastic surgery? That's kind of the issue right now. I want to get family therapy, but she's refusing. We're hoping that taking her to the plastic surgery consult will show her that we're acting in good faith and that she'll agree to have a dialogue with how she's been treating her father. We've done family therapy in the past, but this was before she was blaming her father. We're all glad to hear that things are progressing, albeit slowly. One thing you might want to let your daughter know is that most plastic surgeons who are very qualified actually may require her to do some therapy, given all the negative feelings and the transference that is occurring here. The reason for this is that this type of patient may come in with unrealistic expectations of what plastic surgery is going to do for them. These are the patients who are most at risk for becoming addicted to plastic surgery because it didn't do for them what they thought it would. Knowing how much she wants the surgery, telling her that being proactive now would save her time in the future because again, you are absolutely right in that you want a qualified surgeon to do any work for her, not some quack. Best wishes for your family as a whole. I would make her do family therapy before talking to a plastic surgeon, and I don't mean one session, like 6 months at least. If she's been in therapy this long and still blames her dad, she needs a new therapist. Yes, while it's nice you're acknowledging her insecurities, you are rewarding her nasty behavior towards her dad by offering her surgery. That won't fix her ugly attitude or the way she treats him. She'll continue to be mean and blame him for needing surgery in the first place or for needing more surgery, etc. He is her scapegoat. Don't reward her cruelty or pass it off. She's nearly an adult, and she needs to deal with her insecurities as such. We're just doing the consult next year. Then we plan on using that to start family therapy. She'll only be 18 next year. Any actual surgery will have to wait for a few years. No, she's got to go to therapy first. She has to understand the pain she's in, as well as the pain she's put her father through before she gets her surgery paid for. She moved out of her parents' home because you told her to stop calling her father ugly? She's got some serious issues here, and surgery may only lead to bigger problems if the underlying issue isn't fixed. Posted by user BusinessCautious5392, titled, Am I the a-hole for requiring my sister to sign a legally binding contract before I loan her money? I, 42 female, have a successful career and inherited a decent amount of money from my late husband. I'm nowhere close to being a millionaire, but it's enough so that, as long as I'm smart with the money, to only work because I want to by the time I hit 45. That's including any college expenses my 2 children may have in the future, so long as they go to a state college. Family knows that I have money, and while I don't mind giving a couple $100 here and there, because I know I most likely won't get it back, I draw the line at anything $400 plus. They know this, but that still doesn't stop them from trying, and I've always stayed firm on this. Well, once the pandemic hit, my brother-in-law, 35 male, lost his job, and my sister's, 37 female, job has reduced her hours until further notice. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from my mother asking if I could come over. I had no problem with this and swung by the next day and found my sister already there, and I could tell she had been crying. Based on the title, you all know where this is going. So with me, her, and both of our parents there, my sister informed me that even though her job was expected to go back to regular work hours in early 2021, there was a rumor that they would also be downsizing. She wasn't sure if her job would be secure, and brother-in-law hasn't found any luck in getting a new job yet. I knew what they wanted and tried to play dumb at first, and offered to help find brother-in-law and sister jobs. My sister said that that was very generous of me, and she would take the offer, but in the meantime, what they really needed was a loan. My sister asked for at least $40,000 to help with paying off their credit card, manage the mortgage, make payments toward their student loans again, and still have some money left over in case the worst happened. I was quick to tell them that they were asking a lot from me, that while I did have some money, I didn't just have $40,000 laying around to give out on a whim. I told them I'd have to check my finances and think about it. After 2 days, I started getting inquiring texts from my parents and sister and told them that I was busy this week and that I'd let them know over the weekend. I checked the numbers and it was cutting it a little close, but it was doable. However, I didn't like the idea of just giving the money away without any reassurances that I'd get it back. I drew up a rough draft of a contract and emailed it to my sister, stating that I was willing to give her money after she signed the final draft, and that the money would have to be given in 3 separate installments. My family was furious, and said that as the older sister, it was my duty to look out for my sister in her time of need, and to make her sign a contract was offensive. I countered with that since my sister has never paid me back whenever I loaned her money since the day that I married my husband, I think this was more than fair. Everyone is still angry with me, so I just wanted a more neutral perspective. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Wow, stepped away for a bit, and I wanted to say thanks for the support. Also, I keep seeing a few of the same questions pop up, so I'm going to clarify and mention a couple of things. 1. My sister and her husband can't get a loan from the bank, or at least not much, because their credit isn't the best right now. 2. To my sister and brother-in-law's credit, they did have some savings, but are burning through it, since my brother-in-law is currently out of work, and my sister doesn't work enough hours right now. Also, they have kids. 3. After I got married, my sister started making little jokes that, compared to what my husband makes, what's a few couple dollars to family every now and then? Over the years, I gave my sister at least $2,500 that she never paid back, and I just stopped counting after a while because it would get me upset. I just made it a habit to stop giving her money. Although I would still pay whenever we went out to restaurants, the movies, or the spa. Edit 2. Okay, had to step away again for personal stuff, and when I checked, I saw even more responses, all talking about how I would collect my money if my sister either refused or couldn't pay me back. I left that part out because I wanted to focus on just the idea of the contract itself, rather than the technicality part. As previously stated, I emailed my sister a rough draft of the contract and was planning on having it notarized so that it was official. But as collateral, I would have ownership of her and my brother-in-law's cars if they couldn't pay. Hope that clears a few things up. This is such a dicey situation, and it goes to show that your sister, and then by proxy, your family views you as nothing but a piggy bank that should be willing to bend to the knee to pay for them all the time and bail them out. I can understand why you would go as far as to give $2,500 plus to them, because yes, there are times that people genuinely need that money and genuinely can't work themselves out of the holes they've dug. But I'm willing to bet this is not one of those times. I'm willing to bet that your sister pressured you into dropping that much money on her previously, and then used that precedent to bully you into giving her more, and then bawling that she has no money whenever she can or should pay for something herself. Just because life's hard on them right now, it doesn't have to be your responsibility to bail them out. She's set the precedent of not paying you back in the past. What's to stop her from doing the same in the future? And yeah, the alternative in this situation is potentially letting them go bankrupt and destroying them financially for a long time to come. You could have chosen to step in and help, and you didn't if that happens. This really sucks, but in the end, you're not the a-hole for requiring them to sign a contract for that money. That's an outrageous amount, and I would absolutely do my due diligence with it. So yeah, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, MM18600 says, not the a-hole, but don't do it. Don't lend money you can't afford to lose. Even with a legally binding contract, if your sister doesn't have any money, who are you going to sue to get it back from? It doesn't sound like you're comfortable losing this amount of money, which realistically, you probably will. Not the a-hole. Never mix money and family. That's what a real bank is for. Sister has bad credit right now. Let that be a big waving red flag on why you shouldn't lend her that kind of money. Also, If she doesn't want to sign the contract, then I doubt she intends on giving the money back. And if she does, how does OP expect her family to react if and when she tries to enforce it? If OP demands the cash or seizes the cars, she'll face righteous condemnation from her family as a greedy, heartless person who couldn't even wait another few months or years for struggling family members to pay her back. Or worse, for not just helping out by forgiving a loan that she could easily afford. If everyone's angry at her now for not giving it contract-free, just imagine how furious they'll be for trying to take it back. To quote Shakespeare, "Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend or family." Here's a thought that struck my mind after the last edit. If the sister's cars are worth about 40k, seeing as they are collateral and the sister is that strapped for cash, why doesn't she sell the cars? Brother-in-law doesn't need one because he doesn't work. Or if they both need the cars, they can sell them both for 40k and buy two 5k cars that will last a bit. Bam! That's 30k in the bank. But this is just a cash grab from the sister. She can get stuffed, I would say. Oh, there you go, making sense. Brother-in-law could absolutely find a job. Maybe not a job that he likes or pays that well, but yeah. Not the a-hole. Even with a signed contract, you may never see that money again. In fact, I very much doubt you will. Why, you ask? They want to use part of that money to pay off CC, which tells me they were living beyond their means. And the fact that they need a $40,000 loan to handle stuff like mortgage tells me they have no emergency fund in place. Two likely outcomes if you loan her the money, even if she signs a contract. 1. She doesn't repay and you have to take her to court. She doesn't repay and she files for bankruptcy. Either way, you will never see that money again. You really need to think about the a few hundred here and there. If that happens often, that adds up too. Also, the third thing to consider, this sets a precedent. If she asks for this much money now, she and the rest of the family will start asking for more and more money, stating, well, you gave her 40k, and all I'm asking for is 10k, etc., etc. It will never end. And now on to the update. Thanks to all the wonderful and helpful comments. I won't lie, familial pressure and guilt was getting to me a little because I realize how fortunate I am. I also wanted to apologize for downplaying my socioeconomic status. I just have been living beneath my means for so long, I sometimes forget how fortunate I truly am. I just wanted to show my children the importance of being financially responsible and rarely ever splurged. In the end, I contacted my sister and brother-in-law for a sit-down. Public, so they couldn't cause too much of a scene, but private enough so we could vaguely discuss sensitive information, plus there was the social distancing. I simply did a basic laydown of the situation. I told them that I needed them to hear everything I had to say first, and if they interrupted me, I would walk away and not lend them a cent. First, I told them that it's good to help family when you can, but couldn't give them $40,000. I'm able to offer them $3,200 a month for at least 6 months. I told them that I simply can't afford any more without it affecting my kids, and that I'm a mother before I'm a sister or daughter. I also told them that I can't afford to bail them out every time they're in trouble, and that since the future is so uncertain, I may not always have the means to care for others. My money is going to have strings attached, and if they didn't like it, they could go somewhere else. I made it clear that I wasn't going to do this to be mean or controlling, but I want to help my sister help herself. The rules were, A. The money would be deposited in a new joint bank account with one authorized signer. B. My sister and brother-in-law were going to meet with a financial advisor, which I would pay for. C. Since neither of them are working, it doesn't make sense to have 2 cars, so I expected them to sell one of them, and then our parents can lend my sister or brother-in-law use of one of their cars when they need it. And D. Before they can get their first payments, they will be having their meeting with the financial advisor, and I will be in the meeting just so I know how they went. I made it very clear that this is the best that I could give them. They looked upset, but I told them that beggars can't be choosers. They said they'd think about it. I knew that my sister was going to cry to our parents, so I called them as soon as I got in the car and told them everything. I said I'm not changing my mind, and that if they feel that my sister needs more than what I'm offering, they're more than happy to downsize and sell their own home or take out money from their own retirement and SSI, since family helps family. If there's an update, I'll put here as an edit. Edit for info. I keep seeing this, so just so we're clear, the $3,200 a month is going to be a gift, and I told them that. I don't expect to ever see that money again, but I'm never going to give my sister and brother-in-law another cent after this, and I'm prepared to go low contact, no contact with her over this. I know my parents will never go low contact, no contact with me, because I'm their first choice when it comes to taking care of them when they get too old to take care of themselves. Edit for info too. Forgot to mention that I don't really want sister and brother-in-law to sell one of the cars. It's just my way of putting pressure on brother-in-law to get a job, any job. He has a master's and was making, I think, around $75,000 at minimum, and now he wants a job in the same field, making the same amount or more. If we weren't in a pandemic and he didn't have so much debt, I'd understand him wanting to hold out for something better. But right now, you gotta do what you gotta do. Quote, since family helps family. Bravo, clap, clap, clap. This is how it's done. Your sister will hopefully realize that your money comes with a string that can be pulled and you are not just an ATM for them. They want to treat you like a bank, so now you can act like a bank and give them rules to follow. Good on you for cutting them off at the pass and breaking the news to your parents, and shutting up your own parents who would make excuses for them. Your parents are free to give your sister money if they feel so strongly, not the a-hole. Exactly. OP is very brave and 100% not the a-hole. OP's sister should be very grateful. OP could have given her nothing, yet OP still tried. They seem like a great person. Good for you. Just because you can help them now doesn't mean 6 months or a year from now you'll still be able to. If they can't understand that, I'd give them less than $3,200 a month. I was initially going to give them $4,000, but decided it should be less than that. You have a very giving heart. You are truly trying to help your sister. She is. Offering to pay for a financial advisor so they learn to manage their money better is so generous as well. You are a very generous person. OBS, if they both got a job tomorrow, 2 cars make sense, so perhaps that's the motivation they need. Add in a supplement of $3,200 and they can really get ahead that first year on the job. If they live in an area with decent public transit, 2 cars may be completely unnecessary anyway. In my city, a lot of people have cars, but it's really unnecessary. Posted by user KingKasma21. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my older sister that she is not a stay-at-home mother? Because of the character limit, I'll try to make it brief. My 17 male, older sister, 26 female, has been married for 3 years now, and she and her husband, 28 male, have a 2-year-old son. A few days ago, she came back to our parents' home and she told us that she had a fight with her husband and if she could stay with us a few days. She and her husband had a fight. She told us that she believed that her husband didn't appreciate much of what she did around the house and that she's tired of doing anything alone and is tired of being a mother. The problem is that she literally does nothing. When their child was a few months old, she said that she was tired of having to take care of the housework and taking care of their son. My brother-in-law has a really good job where he makes a lot of money, so to help my sister, he hired a maid. Since then, my sister never had to deal with housework. Since then, up to today, they still have the maid to come and do the work. When my nephew was turning 1 year old, my sister told my brother-in-law that she was tired of being a mother and she needed time to herself sometimes. My brother-in-law has a good job, but it is also very demanding, So alongside with the maid, she also hired a babysitter for most of the days. The only time where the babysitter isn't with their son is when he comes home or the weekends when he doesn't work. When he comes home from work, he does the laundry, he is the one responsible for the cooking, and also the one responsible for taking care of their garden. Everything else is done by the maid. He is also the one responsible for getting my nephew to bed. My sister wanted to be a stay-at-home mother. When she and my brother-in-law discovered she was pregnant, she told him that she was being a stay-at-home mum or divorce. But now that she doesn't do anything in the house, or even need to take care of their son, she doesn't want to go back to work. Most of the time, she usually goes out with her girlfriends or watches Netflix. My brother-in-law was even worried that she might be depressed or something and tried to ask her to go to therapy, but she refuses. She believes it's degrading for a person. Apparently, their fight a few days ago was because my nephew's birthday is coming up, and she decided to make an invitation card for the celebration, but apparently she forgot my nephew's name. She and her husband got into a huge fight, and she ended up deciding to leave. After hearing their reason for the fight, and her telling us that he doesn't appreciate what she does, I ended up saying that in reality, she doesn't do much, and she wasn't a stay-at-home mum, and that she should appreciate that her husband has been putting up with all of this until now. She got angry at me, but my mother ended up being on my side. But I'm really feeling bad now that I'm thinking about what I've said. Reddit, am I the a-hole in this situation? Look, if you smell poop only in her direction, she's probably the one that stepped in it. Fortunately. The key here is you don't have an entire family brigading on you, sending flying monkeys your way left, right, and center to stop reality from hitting her in the face. She is in essence abusing her husband and refusing to be an adult and do adult things. You're confronting her with that reality, the one where she's basically just another child under this man, and he may as well be a single parent with the way things have been going. Not much to say about this one besides not the a-hole OP. In the comments, Nate Hatred says, "Not the a-hole, not even close. She's barely a mother at this point. Your sister sounds super entitled and detached from reality. She has it super good and complains about it. Going down this slope, she'll end up losing custody of the child, which I'm guessing would be a win in her book. So sad, to bring a child into the world without understanding the consequences. Exactly not the a-hole. You just stated how it is, and she didn't like it. How can you forget your own son's name? Shows how detached from reality she is. Yeah, I think her mental health may be significantly to blame for that one. I'm not a mental expert, but I know that mild dissociative disorder can result from depressive episodes, and especially with her husband suggesting therapy, it definitely seems like there's a valid reason and that he thinks she could really use it. My first thought exactly. Forgetting such basic, vital information might indicate an underlying mental disorder. When my dad was first time in the psychiatrist for undiagnosed bipolar disorder, he was asked the birth date of my sister, but he didn't remember. He's still feeling deeply ashamed of it after over 10 years. By the way, he's an excellent father, apart from the edges that comes with his situation. Not the a-hole. She needed to hear the truth about not appreciating what she has, but I feel like maybe she's dealing with depression. That's what I kept thinking as I was reading it, and then you said the husband suspects it. I had it very bad with my second child, and everything felt difficult or impossible. The little bit I could do felt world-changing. I would have your mum talk to her about the possibility of maybe her husband. My brother-in-law tried to talk to her about therapy, or at least visit a counselor, but she refused every single time. In her eyes, consulting any kind of doctor or anything alike for mental health is degrading to a person, in her words. Depression is a nasty thing, but shouldn't be used as an excuse to treat people badly or take advantage of them. If it's getting to a point where one's mental illness is affecting other people, they have to be willing to do something about the mental illness or be prepared for people to start pulling out of their life. Yes, it sucks, but they can't expect someone else to suffer because they're unwilling to get the help they need. Edit: if you want to help your sister, make it very clear to her that there's nothing wrong with going to therapy, counseling, or even taking medication if it goes that far. The stigma around mental health is bullcrap, and it's time we get past it. A lot of people attend therapy. Psychologists and psychiatrists have insights and coping mechanisms that one may not be able to get from talking to their friends and family. They are trained to deal with mental health. The brain is an organ, and it makes sense to see a doctor when that organ is acting up. Unfortunately, there's not much that can be done if she's either unwilling to see she has a problem or is unwilling to accept the help. Info: how in the hell can she forget her own son's name? I'm asking that myself. Their son doesn't even have a different name or anything. It's something along the lines of Mark, Dylan, like easy to remember. Did she forget to put the name on the card? Or straight up forgot the name? I thought it was crazy the former, but it would be crazy if it's the latter. She forgot how her son's name is. Let's say that his name goes around the likes of Alex. She put Jehonatan in the card. If my spouse did that, we would be heading to a doctor right away. Has she been forgetful otherwise? No, she hasn't been forgetful any other time. She is in fact the opposite. We always relied on her for some of our family birthdays and dates. She always had good memory. She was part of her high school theatre club, and she always remembered pages and pages of lines without any problem. This situation took us by surprise. And now on to the update. Hello all. First of everything, I would like to thank all of you a lot for helping me to solve this situation, and of course to your attention to the situation itself. A lot of you told me that it wasn't normal for my sister to forget information that is common in your life, and it was very strange that my sister simply forgot my nephew's name. Both my mother and my brother-in-law decided to sit my sister down and talk to her while I took care of my nephew. We were worried about a possible postpartum depression, so we had to at least take our sister to a doctor. Basically, about my sister not wanting to see a therapist, apparently she was already seeing one, but didn't tell anybody, not even my brother-in-law. According to her, she told us that she started to have doubts about being a mother, but while she was pregnant she was over the moon about having a baby. But after my nephew was born, she started to think otherwise, so she decided to seek therapy, but she was ashamed of it because she thought that we wouldn't see her as a good mother, so she didn't tell us. But after some time, some of her friends started to talk to her about things that she only talked to the therapist about, and she found out that one of her friends was paying money to her therapist to get information about her. She was terrified that her friend was doing that and immediately dropped the therapy. This is the reason she didn't want to seek therapy when I tried to talk to her about it. She tried, and the therapist was giving other people information about her, so she didn't trust the mental health professionals anymore. After that, she lost some friends because they didn't like that she dropped the therapist just because he was giving them information and she didn't want to stop being friends with them. So the reason she was always going to friends' meetings was because she was trying to be friends with them again. They then got to the part about her recent memory problems, and she told us that she has been forgetting a lot of things lately. It took us some convincing, but we ended up convincing her to go see a doctor for that, and we're trying to convince her that not all health professionals are like that, and if the doctor recommends her to seek a counselor or therapist, to please try, but it will probably take us some time. She apologized for not trying to talk to us about it, and she promised to look for a doctor. And my brother-in-law decided to take some time off to go with her and to be at her side. My nephew will be staying with me and my mother for a time, so they can sort things out for a while. Well, this is it. Thank you Reddit for your help with my last post, mainly about asking my sister to go to a doctor. Please make sure to report that therapist. What he did was an ethics violation. But did the friends really pay the therapist, or could OP's sister be having some paranoid delusions as well? I really hope she gets the care she needs. Yeah, that was my read as well. I have a hard time imagining money changing hands to a professional therapist. I could see a bad therapist gossiping, but cash for details is really strange. I think it just points out how much real medical help is probably needed. Also, if the sister's memory is really slipping, she could have told the friends and forgotten about it. Get your sister to report the first therapist. Also, her so-called friends are creepy as hell and sound cultish. I'm betting that they were the ones who recommended said therapist in the first place. She'll be better off with one recommended from a real doctor. I'm pretty sure that didn't actually happen. It sounds more like a paranoid delusion of some kind. Don't know what I want it to be. A bad therapist or OP's sister having a mental breakdown. I'm glad that OP, her mother, and brother-in-law are figuring out that there is something going on with OP's sister and that all are doing their best to find the help that she needs. Damn. This is the first time an update has flipped my opinion so hard. What happened to your sister is screwed. I'm glad she's talking about all of this, and I hope she gets the help she needs. Right? Reading the first post, I was shocked and was wondering how she could be so apathetic about the help she was receiving from outside sources and from her husband when he was home and annoyed that she wasn't seeking any medical help. But this update makes my heart break for her. I really hope she regains trust with medical professionals and that things improve for her. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.